everyone, welcome back. This week in Level F, we're going to be going over lessons 105 through 108. You will need worksheets 86 through 89, the warm-up practice sheet 12, the fraction chart and puzzle pieces, the math card games book, the basic number, multiplication, and fraction card decks. In lesson 105, we will divide simple fractions with the fraction chart and introduce the common denominator method for dividing proper fractions. The warm-up questions are oral for this lesson, so let's take a look at how to divide fractions with common denominators.
So just a real quick review. 6 divided by 2, does that mean how many 2's are in 6? It sure does. Okay, so then let's look at 5/6 divided by 1/6. That means how many sixths, 1/6, are in 5/6. So let's take a look at the fraction chart. How many sixths are in 5/6? So here we have 5/6 up to here. How many sixths are in it? 5 1/6 in 5/6. So our answer is 5. Okay, so let's look at the next problem. 3/7 divided by 2/7. So that means how many 2/7 are in 3/7? So here we have 3/7. How many 2/7 are in there? Well, there's 1 1/2. So my answer is simply 1 1/2. So next we're going to look at finding the common denominator. So we're working with dividing fractions with unlike denominators. So here we have 7/8 divided by 1/4. How many 1/4 are in 7/8? Well, if we look at our chart, we can see that 1/4 is the same as 2/8. So what we're really asking is how many 2/8 are in 7/8? So here we have 7/8, all but one, right? How many 2/8 are in there? There's 1, 2, 3 1/2. So my answer is 3 1/2.
Notice how we have not taught the widely known algorithm on how to solve fraction division problems. We will learn that later on, but for now, this method will help solidify the concept. Go through the next example and then have your child finish the worksheet. Ask the in-conclusion questions and then play fraction division war game, which is F44 in the math card games book. For lesson 106, there is a correction. So if your book was printed before January 7th, 2019, please click on the link that I will provide in the description for the correction page. In this lesson, we will divide fractions with the common denominator method, which we learned in the last lesson, and learn how to check fraction division by multiplying. There are 3 warm-up questions on practice sheet 12, plus a few oral questions as well. Have your child look at worksheet 86, which is what we just did in the previous lesson, and see if an algorithm jumps out at him or her. There are some guiding questions that you can follow to help them see that there is a pattern. Now let's take a look at the first example.
Okay, so the first problem says 3/4 divided by 1/3. So we know that means how many 1/3 are in 3/4, but we can use the common denominator method to find this out. And what would be the common denominator? Well, 3 times 4 is 12, so that's one common denominator. So we would have 9/12 and we would have 4/12. So 9/12 divided by 4/12. Okay, so the first thing we ask is, what is 12 divided by 12? The answer is 1. If we're multiplying or dividing by 1, it doesn't change the answer. So we can ignore the 1, we don't have to write it down. Now let's look at the rest of the problem. What is 9 divided by 4? Well, 9 divided by 4 is 9/4. So the answer to our question, 9/12 divided by 4/12, is 9/4. I would not simplify at this point because we want to develop a pattern and it's harder to see if you're simplifying. Now you'll do another example before getting to this part, but I want to show you how to check your answer. So we would just reverse it and multiply. So what is 9/4 times 4/12? So remember, we've already used the canceling method when multiplying. So I'll just rewrite it here to make it easier to see. So 9/4 times 4/12, what does that equal? Well, we can cancel out the 4s and we have 9/12. So yes, our answer was correct. 9/4 is the answer to this problem.
Go ahead and work through the next example and then have your child complete the worksheet. Then you can play Fraction Division War, which is once again F44 in the Math Card Games book. After that, ask your in-conclusion questions. In lesson 107, we will divide 1 by a fraction and introduce the concept of reciprocals. The warm-ups are on practice sheet 12. Let's look at how to use the fraction chart to help understand what 1 divided by a fraction is. We'll use both unit and non-unit fractions.
Okay, I'll hold up my camera so that you can see the whole thing. We have 1/3 and then part of 1. How much of that last 3/4 do we have? We have 1/3. So our answer is 1 and 1/3. So here we go. Our answer is 1 and 1/3. And we're going to make that an improper fraction just so that we can eventually see the pattern. So let's try it with a non-unit fraction this time. So here we have 1 divided by 2/3. So remember, how many 2/3 are in 1? So here's our fraction chart again. So we can see that we have one set of 2/3, right? Here's 2/3. And now I'm going to lay another third down so that we can see that we have another 2/3. So how many 2/3 go into 1? So we have 1 and a half. So our answer is 1 1/2. And that can be written as an improper fraction, 3/2.
Okay, so once you've gone through those examples, go ahead and have your child work on worksheet 88 and go ahead and have them go from row to row as opposed to column, because the problems get harder the farther down you go. So after your child has done the worksheet down to the gray line, there are some discussion questions to ask. Then have your child finish the worksheet with the true and false questions, and then you should ask the in-conclusion questions. If you have time, play the fraction division war game again. For lesson 108, we will be dividing whole numbers by fractions. Ask your child the warm-up questions, and then we can take a look at how to divide using reciprocals.
So after you go over a few division problems, noticing what happens when you double or halve the numbers, we're going to move on to fractions. So 1 divided by 1/4, and this will follow the same pattern that you just established by doing the division problems with whole numbers. So here we have 1 divided by 1/4. You can just ask them to solve the problem. So how many 1/4 are in 1? There's 4. Now we want to point out, we have talked about reciprocals before. So what do we call the quotient of 1 divided by a fraction? So the quotient of 1 divided by a fraction is the reciprocal. And then what do you get when you multiply the fraction by its reciprocal? So 1/4 times 4 equals 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and erase that for a second. So now my question is, what is 2 divided by 1/4? Go ahead and give your child time to think about it. And if they're struggling, you can ask, what happens to the quotient since we doubled the 1 from the previous equation? So when you were doing the division problems in the beginning of this lesson, that prepared your child's brain to think about this, right? Because otherwise, if you just throw this in, they might be a little lost. So what happens to the answer? It doubles, right? So we doubled this number to here, and that doubles the answer. How about 3 divided by 1/4. 3 divided by 1/4 is going to be 3 times this answer up here because it's 3 times the 1. So 3 times 4 is 12.
Okay, so after going over those few examples with your child, go ahead and have him or her complete the worksheet. Next, you'll play the basic fraction division war game. The instructions are in the lesson book, not in the Math Card Games book. Then you can ask the in conclusion question, and you're done for this week. See you next time. Bye-bye.